As we wrap up another September, I think it's pretty natural that we started off with the beginning of easily the best season of the show. I've always had this theory about season 4s in television shows. The fourth season of a TV show feels like it's easily the best season of a show when the writing staff, the producers, the directors, the cast, and the rest of the crew know exactly where they want to go with the series and produce some of their best materials. I mean, there's a number of different shows that follow in these footsteps. Cheers, Frasier, Seinfeld, MASH, The Big Bang Theory. Just recently we had The Bear. And, there's so many other great shows I can name on this list here. But, this was a great year for television in general because not only did you have the fourth season of The Simpsons, but you also had the fourth season of Seinfeld, which coincidentally were both airing on the same night, which was perfect timing because you can watch The Simpsons at 8 o'clock on Fox and then switch it over to Seinfeld on NBC later on that night around 9:30. And then again, that was in technically that was in the beginning of 1993, since Seinfeld was still on Wednesday. But you get the idea here. But yeah, The Simpsons is definitely one of the perfect examples of a show that took 100% advantage of my season 4 theory, and the next 22 episodes of the show all range from good to great. I mean, there's episodes that could have their own top 10 list for how good they are. That's how great this season was, and I figured there's no better way to wrap up this September by giving you a sneak preview of the really fun season that we're going to delve into here when we get back here in 2026. So let's begin our last September for 2025 by taking a look at the very first episode of Season 4, which is Kamp Krusty. First broadcasted on September 24th, 1992, and written by David M. Stern and directed by Mark Kirkland. In this episode, Bart and Lisa go to Kamp Krusty for the summer in order to have a break from their parents and meet Krusty the Clown. However, their promises of a fun summer at Kamp Krusty are broken when the director of the camp, Mr. Black, is revealed to be a ferocious accountant, and at the camp counselors are 3 teenage bullies from school. Meanwhile, Homer is rejuvenated with the kids gone and even begins to regain his hair and lose weight. All the kids at the camp are treated horribly, and Bart survives by clinging to the promise that Krusty himself will soon arrive. When this does not happen, Bart leads the campers into a rebellion, and then eventually takes over the camp. Homer sees a news report about this and immediately loses the hair and regains his lost weight. The real Krusty then arrives at the camp and decides to make it up to them by taking them to the happiest place on Earth, Tijuana! And so the idea of this episode about the kids going on a camp run was first suggested by Stern. The animators were enthusiastic about making the show because they had gone to summer camps as children and thought it would be a fun episode to write for. The writers also thought that it would be fun if while the kids were gone, Homer and Marge find that as the kids are miserable, their marriage is better than ever. The layout for Bart and Lisa's cabin was influenced by the director Mark Kirkland, who as a child went to a Boy Scout camp that had exposed wires and other similar faults. Kirkland was also sure that the character Mr. Black was going to reappear later in the series, but he never did. Al Jean commented, "I guess the hydrofoil really got Mr. Black out of the show forever." After he saw the completed episode, James L. Brooks called the writers and suggested that Kamp Krusty's script should be used as The Simpsons feature film. However, the episode ran short and barely made it to the minimum time that the Kamp Krusty song had to be lengthened by a number of verses. The episode was also chosen to be the first episode of the season, further complicating matters. As Gene told Brooks, "First of all, if we make this into the movie, then we don't have a premiere. And second, if we can't make 18 minutes out of this episode, how are we supposed to make 80? Along with the episode A Streetcar Named Marge, Kamp Krusty was a holdover from the previous season's production run, and it was also the final episode to be produced in the run as the last animated at Klasky Csupo before the show's producers Gracie Films moved its domestic production to Film Roman. Don't worry about Klasky Csupo, though. They have another show going on around that time that's doing pretty well for them about some babies that's on this channel Nickelodeon where they're starting their own animated shows. They'll be fine. And personally, I think it was pretty much a good idea to kind of not make this the Simpsons movie back then. I mean, honestly, like they said, they do just enough in this episode to get the point out there. I think trying to stretch this out too much, I think really would have pushed it too far. Also would have made it a little bit too similar to the Charlie Brown movie, Race for Your Life Charlie Brown, in my opinion. But it's okay, though. 15 years later, we would get the actual Simpsons movie, which did eventually pay off in the end. Let the episode set the tone for the excellence of the season right off the bat, because Kamp Krusty sets you in, and much like how 2 seasons ago Bart sets the tone for the new changes in the series in animation and story tone, this episode took a new changeover mostly in the way the episodes are portrayed. The biggest change you can see with this episode is the fact that acts usually end with a joke. For the majority of the first 3 seasons, with a couple of exceptions, most of the acts ended with a more realistic and dramatic situation, but starting with this episode, the acts ended more on the comedic side, which is just some of the many changes we'll see during the course of the season. Looking at the episode itself, it's just a classic episode with 2 great stories that connect very well. I mean, Homer and Marge's marriage getting better while Bart and Lisa's camping experience gets worse is so cleverly handled. It's hilarious to watch the events of each side occur, not to mention all the great moments, from the opening dream sequence from Bart, which is probably one of the best dream sequences ever, the Kamp Krusty song, the things Krusty is doing throughout the course of the episode, and just so much more. This episode just works. It's a classic episode on every single level. But that being said, there are a couple of baffling things about the episode that did get to me. First off, Homer makes it clear that Bart has to get good grades in order to go to Kamp Krusty, and ends up getting straight up D-minuses as he tries to forge his grades, and instead of doing the smart thing by making the D's B's, he goes and makes them all A+, to the point where even Homer is literally telling him he got greedy. And Homer's done much stupider stuff than this. Now I know Bart's not the brightest person in the world, but come on, man. You could have just made the B's and make it more plausible, but no. Only Bart would do something that pretty stupid like that to try to elevate that to a whole other level. I mean, Homer's dumb, but he's not that dumb. There's other moments that don't make a whole lot of sense, but honestly, that's the big one that kind of got to me. But either way you look at it, Kamp Krusty is a great episode, and just the beginning to one of the greatest seasons of TV ever. And I'd like to consider that as a little bit of a teaser for what we have in store to start September 2026. I want to thank all you folks out there for joining me on another great month of Simpson reviews. I've really enjoyed your thoughts on this. I've really enjoyed the fact that you keep coming back to these. And I feel like I've got something really good going here. And it's going to be really fun to tackle this season coming up, as well as the 5th season. Things are going pretty good right now. And it's great I get to do something like this. Because just like the ending of this episode, of this episode in particular, it's not always about the journey, but the memories that we'll have after we've gone through the journey in particular. But this is definitely one of those. It's definitely a prime example of just how much I love this show, how much I put a lot of effort into these videos, and the fact that you folks out there are really getting a kick out of it. It makes me feel very special that you enjoy it, and I hope you will be back with us next time around to see me delve into the greatest season in the show's history. So with all that said, once again, thank you very much for joining me on this, and I'll see you all next September.
Get ready for 2 weeks at the happiest place on earth, Tijuana!
South of the border, down Mexico way. That's where I fell in love, when stars above came out to play. And now as I wander, my thoughts ever stray.